2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Hello, hello, internet world. This is the deer man. It looks like I'm actually wearing a deer costume. But it's actually a kangaroo costume. Like, it has a pouch in it. Right here, which is handy for carrying things. Anyway, yes. I'm coming to, read another story now that Carly Saturn is over, and very disappointingly, he was not an automaton like Olympia. But what can you do? Look in the background, do you see that? Okay, this one's called The Cream of Hell. Much like the Volya and Mita story and a couple other stories, I think this is one story I tried to write like a bunch of times, but failed each time, but I don't remember quite what it is, so let's get into it and figure it out. Okay. The Cream of Hell. Can you read that? The Cream of Hell? It's probably mirrored. Hey, who are you? Well, first, why are you staring at me? The rider sat back on his heels, not wanting to look at all silly or unusual while talking to him seriously like this. His drink from the lake could wait. The other man, the one who was a stranger to the rider, shifted a little, as if nervous, on his feet. His heels went up as the flat of his sandals remained mostly on the ground. First one heel, then the other. A soft, husky giggle made it out of his lips. He's drinking out of the lake. He's gonna get plantain worms in his stomach or whatever. You just look so strange. The rider looked slightly irritated. I'm strange? He thinks I'm the strange one? The rider thought to himself. But he's so strange that even if he belongs to another tribe, which of course is the only explanation, another country, not only tribe, he must be one of their touched ones. The rider stood up on his feet then, not wanting to be down on the ground, not wanting to be in a lower, more vulnerable, my favorite word of all time. Fucking hate that word. And you know what's funny? I never felt anything towards that word, positive or negative, before, like, last year, maybe 2 years ago or something. Everybody fucking started using it. Anyway, that word blew up in popularity. It has its little, Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame. Actually more than 15 minutes, more like 15 hours. Way too fucking long. People still use this word at all opportunities and it irritates the shit out of me. But you know why? Because people expanded the, meaning of it, and, now it's just being used left and right in situations you never used it before. But I digress. Anyway, in relation to the stranger, who may very well be a lunatic. Also, I don't understand why the rider, is he literally riding on a horse? Because obviously he wouldn't be in a compromised position because he would be up on his horse, right? So I'm assuming he has no animal to ride on. He's just a rider because, I don't know, maybe he's wearing riding clothes or something. Maybe he was riding a horse or something and then it, like, got killed or something. Or ran away. You never know. So, I don't know. Or a maniac. Or a psycho. That's funny. I like how he says lunatic, maniac, and psycho are all different things. Actually, you know what? I might have gone into this on another video. I don't remember. But they are kind of technically three different things. Like, a maniac, at least to me, a maniac is like somebody who's like, they have mania. They're full of energy. They're just like, yelling and screaming, going wild, and, possibly violent and stuff like that. A psycho is more like psychosis, so they don't know where they are. They're not necessarily hyper as hell and cracked out. They could be, but they're more just like hella confused, and freaked out. And then a lunatic, well, technically a lunatic is like a werewolf, affected by the moon. But, anyway, yeah. And as he rose up, the stranger also stepped away, just a cautious step or two. The rider's horse may be gone. Oh, there's the answer right there. But he still had his sword on his belt. A thin and lightweight sword. But that didn't make it any less deadly if it was used right. Okay, I think he's like a musketeer. There was like a good solid like year, where I was like obsessed with musketeers. They're just so fashionable, you know? They're just so, what a weird time in history. And their swords are terrible weapons. I mean, like, yeah, you can kill someone with that, but like, what a horrible way to be killed, you know? Stabbed by a skinny sword and then you bleed slowly to death, or, you know, you lose an organ function or something because they just like pierce you through an organ and then it takes you a long time to die. Like, ugh. Sounds fucking horrible. It's better to have like a big broadsword you can just like cut somebody's like head off, or like cut them through the thigh and they bleed to death like fast, you know? Stab them through the chest or something. But anyway, where was I? I didn't mean anything bad by it, the stranger replied. He gave an apologetic grin back, lips stretching back like a chimpanzee and revealing a missing sharp tooth in the process. That gap into the shadowy cavern of his rotten mouth somehow made the rider shudder. Not as if the rider was perfect himself, but all the same. In fact, I think you're very handsome, the stranger added in a softer tone, a cautious hint of a flirt in case that somehow pacified the rider. Still, the rider bristled. Yeah, I would too. I'd be like, the fuck are you flirting with me? Like, we ain't friends. Possibly even more than before. You are a man, he snapped back. He stepped back in reverse once more. God would surely punish him if he lashed out at what was probably a helpless but entirely insane person. Still, this whole encounter was not going well. He was a man, this stranger. A little bit of homophobia from the musketeer, but seeing as he's a 1600s person, I'm sure we can, and most likely Catholic, we can, unless he's British, which I don't think he is. I'm guessing he's a French musketeer because those are like kind of like the classic image, you know, so I'm sure that's what I was going for. But you know, there's also British musketeers, which I guess that was during like when the Protestants and the Catholics were really going at it, I think. So like my history might not be right on point, but I'm pretty sure that's when the Catholics and the Protestants were like fucking having a big ass war, and so there could be a Protestant musketeers too, but mostly Catholic, I think. Anyways, whatever. Where was I? There was no mistaking the prickly black stubble on his bony jaw, or the Adam's apple in his skinny throat, or the hint of hollow hips, which held up his shorts, with a strip of skin showing between the sagging waistline and a slightly too short shirt. The pathetic-looking glimpse of a ribcage in that slightly too thin torso, showing through the rubbery skin. This guy who had the sandals on and the missing tooth, and that was just described, I don't know if he's supposed to be like another historical person, but from like another time, or if he is a modern person. I can't really tell yet. The stranger's thin hair, which was so pale it was nearly white as snow. Oh, that's funny. I was imagining him to be dark-haired for some reason. Was tied up in a high ponytail. Oh, I know who this is. This is Beatrix. The same when the speedrun was happening, I read part of the story that Beatrix was in that I wrote in college. He's just basically like you know, he's basically like a beach bunny cross-dresser who kind of has like a vaguely, you know, Jesus looking fashion, you know, stubble, long hair. It's pretty much all you need, right? Which was was tied up in a high ponytail like a maiden in spring. His hair was white and his cheeks were gaunt and pale. But despite all this, he was young. The rider didn't think that the strange stranger was much older than himself, and maybe even they were the same age. I'm Beatrix. Yep, the stranger said then. This is not the story that I tried to write a bunch of times, so I don't even remember this. I'm Beatrix, the stranger said then, named after a wonderful writer, oh yes, of Peter Rabbit fame. Again, he twisted slightly where he stood, as if trying to bend his back and loosen his spine. Beatrix. I never heard of a Beatrix. Well, sometimes I'm a man, he said. He turned around and hugged his arms tight around himself, and turned his head to look back over his shoulder at the rider. Big, glassy blue eyes, as if they were false eyes made of glass, rimmed with long, thick black eyelashes, which I'm sure are fake. Eyelashes which batted at the rider. When I'm a man, I'm named Chris, he said. Chris, like Christopher, the rider replied. Now at last he was getting somewhere. He almost twitched a small smile at the tiny triumph. He began to pace back and forth by the water's edge, with the strangers bending and twisting, making him feel restless and twitchy. I know many a man named Christopher, the rider said. The stranger uttered a small laugh, or maybe it was more of a scoff. I'm sure you do. I wrote a whole bunch of different stories that all were basically similar, but not the same story. And they're about, like, people from different time periods, like, being meshed together, like, either in the afterlife or another dimension, or some kind of, like, cosmic crazy house, or some shit like that, you know. This is one of those stories, apparently. So you're only a man some of the time? Then what are you the rest of the time? The rider asked, slightly humoring this man, who he thought of as insane. I told you I'm Beatrix. Half man, half Beatrix? Yes. The rider laughed slightly, but a little of his uneasiness sputtered out in his laugh too. And what is a Beatrix? A writer, you said? What does he write about? Knights slaying dragons and hunting for the Holy Grail? Or is it the ramblings of a weird drifter? I wonder how you say weird drifter in 1600s French. Not he, she, Beatrix said. A woman writer? Ah, that's why the story is so horrible, the writer said. A writer and a writer. That's funny. That's funny. It's like, that's like a typical thing, is like when you write like a historical character, no matter how inaccurate they are. Because really, how can you be accurate? I mean, sure, you can spend like a year researching, but what kind of fun is that, you know? Let Shelby Foote do that shit. When you're just writing fantasy and it's just like, you know, then it's like, this is like inevitable. It's like they always gotta show their like bigotry to be like, look, I'm not afraid to show that like back there in the day, they were all bigots, so my character is no exception, you know? That's just like a thing, you know? Alright, Beatrix shot him a slight glare. You don't really mean that. Huh? The rider was caught slightly off guard. Beatrix turned around. So face him again. She wrote about rabbits. Rabbits, the writer scoffed. Like I told you, horrible. But I'm not a writer. I only take her first name. The rest is mine, he said, twisting a little again. The rider. I can totally relate, though, to feeling uncomfortable and just being, like, twitchy and squirmy all the time. When you want to crack your back or something. Or some weird place. Like, there's some place, like, right to the side of your back or in the side of your leg or something. Or anywhere in your body. It's just some spot you just want to crack. I'm doing it right now because I'm thinking about it. You just hella uncomfortable and you're just like, I just want to, like, why can't all my muscles and nerves and bones just, like, settle into place? You know, why does everything have to be, like, all the time? You know? Anyways. Something had stopped his pacing. I bet not every man you know named Christopher is anything like Saint Christopher himself. Which one is Saint Christopher? Is that the one that, the patron of lost souls or something like that? I think Saint Christopher is the one from, that they had in the butterfly effect. So even a crazy man knows about the saints. They're very famous. I would hope so, the writer answered. I think the name Beatrix comes from two parts. Bea, from beautiful, and trix, meaning woman who. So to answer your question, Beatrix is a woman who is beautiful. Is that true? Is that real etymology? I know trix does mean a woman who something. My dad told me that because he was like, dominatrix means this when he was learning Latin. Yep. Oh, is that the origin of it, huh? Well, I don't know. I only think so, said Beatrix. He gave the writer a soft look then. What's your name? At first the writer was going to refuse an answer, but then, strangely, his attitude changed slightly. He opened his mouth to give one response. Then, after a second of hesitation, he thought better of it and gave a different answer. My name is Baz. It's Baz? He's lying anyway, so whatever. I think this story is from 2014 because that's when I was writing in this red ink and my handwriting was like that. Like, earlier stuff, the handwriting is usually messier and I always use pencil. But by 2014, I was using pen, and I had this red pen that I used for a long time. So, I think that's when it's from. Also, I was using these small notebooks because they were easier to carry. I could put them in my purse. I didn't have to have a backpack. So, yeah. And, what was I gonna say? So, it's only like 6 years old. It'll be 7 years old in the summer, but, you know. My name is Baz. Baz is a handsome name, said Beatrix. Baz. Beatrix. Buh. The writer looked Beatrix up and down. He surely was a strange one. His skin was pale, his body skinny and shapeless, and his limbs were knobby and bony. You know what? For a fucking French musketeer, like, Beatrix is probably, like, he probably sees him as being, like, just in rags, you know? I mean, first of all, Beatrix, when he's, like, cross-dressing, he usually wears, like, or should I say she? I don't know. I always considered Beatrix to be a cross-dresser, not a transsexual, so I can say whatever I want. Anyway, Beatrix would have, like, a set outfit, kind of like a cartoon character, so he would usually have flip-flops, so already that's basically, like, barefoot, you know, when you have flip-flops are barely shoes, it's just, like, you're barefoot stepping on a paddle, basically, with a little string to keep it on, a little strap, you know, so basically you're barefoot. Then Beatrix usually wears some Daisy Dukes because he's supposed to live, in some place that's, like, really hot, like, on the coast. Like a semi-tropical, like, climate. It's, like, pretty much, like, 80 degrees, like, all year round and shit. So, like, a fictional place. It's, like, basically, like, a fictional, like, I don't know, a fictional, like, Santa Barbara or something, or Santa Cruz or something, but, like, but hotter, you know, like, a lot hotter. So, yeah. So he always wears, like, Daisy Dukes, and then, like, a little crop top. So for a French musketeer, that they wear all those clothes and shit, like, seeing somebody wearing that skimpy of clothes is probably just, like, you might as well be naked, like, you're sitting up here in rags, you know what I mean, like, and there's no style to him either, it's just, like, a little t-shirt, cut-off t-shirt, That's just like a rag. There's no like shape to that. It just contours to your body and just kind of falls off you, you know. And the little shorts, you know, it's barely anything. Just covers your ass. That's it. And then yeah, no shoes. So I'm sure he just thinks Beatrix just like. I mean, he said he thinks he's crazy, but I'm sure he also thinks that he's like some like not only crazy, but also like pretty much a savage, you know. But anyway, that's 20 minutes. I might record one more. I'm kind of curious to see where this bullshit goes. I'm sure it goes nowhere. I'm sure it's basically just like writing for the sake of writing. I used to do a lot of just exercises like that, and I still do now. So we'll see what happens with these two. It's interesting people.